Hey guys, it's me, Dan, in the flesh. Um, I appreciate those of you who kind of sent me texts and emails over the past week or so just to see where I was because it's been uh, it's been over a week I think since I've been on one of these things, and maybe people thought that I had just finally decided this enough was enough and moved out to Western Mass, and um, but I could never leave. All my wonderful friends. Um, yes, it is Thursday. It is our town hall, Thursday, the 11th of June. And I was racing just it was like 3 minutes, and I came on, and Greg was just there as calm as anything. But I was on another call, and it just couldn't get off. There's so much going on, even as we start to feel like there's some reopening happening, and we are all starting to kind of set our sights towards the summer ahead, um, uh, beginning visitation for our families in our residential programs, and continuing to reimagine what our day services is going to look like. So I'm gonna. Since it's been a little while since I've chatted with you. I want to kind of catch up on a couple of things, um, and then maybe talk about where we go from here, because there's a lot happening as we try to kind of pull together all these loose ends. And by the way, I just appreciate so much the people that are here. I don't know what it's up to now, but it was up I think over 60 a minute ago. And you guys, if you're on this call, you are among the most dedicated, and I just appreciate you and your attention to what's really important, not just for NuPath and our families and the people that we serve, but really for the Commonwealth and for our country. I mean, this is remains a serious thing. But I'm going to see if I can do this correctly. Oh, I may not. Oh, Greg, I might not have gotten it right. Oh, wait, let me see if I can try it. I don't have my glasses on. That's why I think I got it now. So this is a picture of Benchmark Senior Living of Woburn. Uh, it's one that I found online, obviously, because it's not autumn, but this might have been taken last autumn. And this year is, I don't know if you can see my arrow, since I'm sharing my screen, but is the front vestibule. This is how I enter, whenever I would go to visit my mother. And in fact, I think I took a picture of her. And right through these doors you go in. And of course, I haven't been able to even lay eyes on my mother for, I think, 4 or 5 weeks now. I used to be able to see her in the lobby, and then it's been 11 or 12 weeks since I've been able to actually visit with her. But the other day I dropped something off, and inside the door there's this table. And normally they would have a sign-in sheet here for visitors and maybe announcements or whatever. And occasionally I'd notice an obituary on a stand. And I looked through the window, and this is what I saw. 5 obituaries on that table. And I just stood there. You guys see the reflection of me taking the picture through the glass, and I just was stunned by that. Not that 5 people could die like in a week since I was there last, but I just never seen so many obits on the table. And all you're going on a year and a half now that my mother's been there. And we know that, I get the emails from Benchmark telling me that there's, if whenever there's somebody else that passes away, and I think currently they've had 25 people that tested positive, and then another 11 that tested positive and died of it. There's like 95 people that live there. That's a third of people have tested positive. The good news is that, and this is something that I know that Dan talked about, but we're going to start to be able to schedule 45-minute visits outside, and as long as we're engaged in social distancing. But it's been a very disorganized system, I will tell you that. And I sure hope what's going on with our families in our residential programs is going more smoothly than the Benchmark community arranged things. And if it's not, I'd like to know that afterwards. 114,833 American lives have been lost now. That is the equivalent, approximately, to every soul that could be packed into Gillette Stadium, plus the Garden 2.5 times. To put some perspective to the number of Americans that have died. Yeah, I mean, how many people died in the Civil War or Vietnam War or whatever, maybe that just seems like such a vague thing, but most of us know what the sea of humanity looks like when those venues are full. Gillette Stadium and the Garden 2.5 times. This thing is still out there, guys, and it's still killing people. And we have to be more vigilant now than ever. Just because I've been sort of keeping track or helping us keep track, Massachusetts now has 7,454 confirmed deaths associated with COVID-19. And the US, as we just said, is up to 114,833. Let's make sure that kind of number is always staggering, that we never get so immune to it that we just gloss over that. Because you think about that, behind every one of those people is a family that's lost somebody that they loved, that they cared about. And many would argue we wouldn't have had to lose them. And then globally, we are now over 400,000 deaths and nearly 7.5 million confirmed cases. Depending on what who you listen to and what report, and nobody really knows, but we are not going to be looking at any kind of a vaccine probably before the first of the year, if that, and then however long it's going to take to get it out into the mass populace, and that's assuming that it is proven to be effective. Now we're I think in for quite a long haul yet. Last slide, I think I had to did I? Let's see here. I wanted to show here was just in Massachusetts. We talked about the deaths of the total cases of the deaths of 7,454. But continuing to look at what these status colors are, and this is why we're moving forward into what the governor's decided, that we should be moving into the stage 2. Now, if anybody saw his, let me just finish this up and then I'll go back to the full screen. But just even as Massachusetts is opening up, we've been hearing about other states that have opened earlier or more quickly. Some might argue more recklessly, but we're starting to see outbreaks, and many people are saying that that by the fall, if there's a surge of the fall, that we could be looking at well over 200,000 people in the United States dead in 1 year from this pandemic. I'm going to just finish this off, but to our heroes, the ones that have worked in our care center, which now has been more or less emptied. I was there this morning and had a meeting with Bill Yetz as we began to talk about some financial things. It is sad. It is empty. It is, well, it's happy that it's empty, that there's no COVID cases there, but I want to get people back to it. So I'm going to end this and go back, if I can, to I'm resisting the temptation to say, Greg, what do I do now?
You're good, D.
Am I?
Yep.
Okay, back to it. So when the governor had his press conference, when was it? I forget now, but he was very clear about saying that as all these other businesses are beginning to reopen, obviously within the guidelines of social distancing, making sure that there's, people have facial masks on, face masks on, that they have plenty of opportunities to wash their hands and so forth. The one industry or business that he specified is not opening in phase two was the day programs, and and um, and that's the day habs and the Westford site and 147 New Boston Street. And uh, the reason for this, and the reason that we're different from other industries, I would equate us more with what the educational, what our schools are going to be facing this fall, because it's not a simple sort of retail or commerce that people are coming in off the street, and we just have to make sure that they're safe as they come in and make their purchase or have their service and then leave. We're talking about a a, an entire body of people that previously had come in and mind you in vehicles with 15 people in them, many of them, or 14 or some smaller group, but certainly not would not meet the social distancing requirements, and then be around people within large groups, and certainly not in probably a safe distance. And so as we begin to think about what our reopening is going to look like, it has to take into account so many factors that are going to go in sync with the continued success of those dashboard numbers that we saw, number of new cases, hospital beds, the false positive or the positive test rate. So it was yellow, yellow, green, green. I think we have 3 greens now and 3 yellows. As long as that continues to go in a positive direction, then we will be able to move slowly in through the reopening. Now, this has been a bigger challenge than I even had imagined it would be. And I spent the better part of the day yesterday on a couple of calls. This is with the ADDP Executive Board, and then we had a meeting with Jane Ryder and her team at Central Office, all Zoom, of course, or Ring Central or whatever WebEx they were using. And um, we ended up on a kind of a glum note because there is such concern now with us with the country being in recession and with businesses having shut down back in March, and with the much lower than expected tax receipts that the Commonwealth has collected. uh, the budget for the state, which would be effective, we call it fiscal year 2021, would go into effect July 1st, um, is more uncertain than it has ever been in the past. And in past years, it's in fact, years ago, those of you who were on this call that have been around for 10 years or more remember back to 2008, 2009, 2010, when we were constantly emailing our state reps, and we've got out of practice, but guess what? We may have to start dusting off our legislative advocacy skills so that we can make our voices heard if we do not get some additional revenues that than what we're starting to hear may be available for day services. It's too early to panic, but knowing what I know about the amazing work that people are doing, the incredible creative programming that's happening virtually, the kind of flexibility that our day staff have had to help cover residential, and then just our fantastic residential crew that's always there to work with our folks day in and day out. Knowing all of that, and then hearing about some of the proposed reductions to the money that we've had during these past 3 months that have helped us just to kind of get through and stay alive and keep people paid. Well, it's a discouraging. It's feeling a little discouraging, to be honest with you, um, because this is a time that's unlike any other that we're entering into. It's of course it's not just NuPath that's suffering. It's not just the human services industry that is at risk. There isn't a city or town. There isn't a school system, uh, any municipality across the Commonwealth that isn't worried to some degree right now because this situation has hit us so hard, so fast, and so deeply that it's really kind of hard in some ways to kind of make sense of it all. And I think I gave up a long time ago trying to pretend like I knew anything, that I was, anything special or smarter than anybody else, in any of this. Um, but I'll tell you, this is something that I feel many times, kind of inadequate really to try to deal with. But I think we all do. And I was looking at my colleagues on the Zoom screen yesterday, as we were talking about this, and I just got this sense that people were just feeling really deflated. And these are CEOs that are managing organizations much larger than NuPath, and yet our frustrations and our challenges and our fears and our concerns are very consistent, because we all want the same thing, and that is to preserve this intricate safety net that our day services and our residential programs provide to so many men and women with developmental and intellectual disabilities and their families that depend upon us. And so the question is, what what will the programs look like on the other side as we go more and more virtually? I always want to say more than I probably feel I should say. But I was talking to Bill the other day about his team, and hats off to our business department, for all of you out there that are part of our admin, administrative functions. These are the men and women that work behind the scenes to make sure we get paid and that our health insurance is current, and uh, that our bills are paid and our mortgages are paid and all the rest. They've really, in a very short span of time, become quite adept at running this nearly $25 million organization remotely. And that is something that I think Bill would agree 6 months ago, 3 months ago even, never, ever, ever would have thought it could be possible. And so I said to Bill, could you imagine a future where all of our administrative, functions would be done remotely? And I'm not saying that's what we're doing, so I don't want you to run out and, start talking about that. But that's the kind of big question that we've begun asking ourselves. Right now, the administrative uh, functions of this organization are in the process of doing a we're in the process of doing a real in-depth review of each position, the function of each position, uh, what responsibilities are included in the various roles. Uh, I want to look at how, what our capacity is, if there's any overlap, if there's any way that we can, become leaner and accomplish the kinds of things that we need to accomplish, because there's a lot behind the scenes that has to happen, guys. And we may not understand what everybody does in their roles, but I trust me, there's a lot happening behind the scenes to make sure that we continue to move forward. But we're going to be looking at every position and trying to evaluate it in this new environment, in this new reality, because the more and more we're looking at our service delivery taking on a kind of a virtual feel to it, and I hope that can continue. A lot of that has to do with how CMS, Centers for Medicaid, Medicare Services, federal agency, how they're, and this is I'm getting way too much in the weeds here, I guess, probably, but there's many decisions that are being made about what's eligible to bill and how can we bill it, and if you do virtual, contact, is that, how much of a day is that worth, and on and on and on, and we've kind of gotten into a comfortable, understanding in how it all fit together. But that ends June 30th, with the conclusion of the fiscal year, which ends July 1st and June 30th. And so once that's done, people just don't know, and the department doesn't know even. They don't have the answer because they're still waiting to see what the final budget's going to look like. So is this doom and gloom? Well, I'm always an optimist because I have been through a lot. But I was saying to Bill today, um, it's funny how different experiences that we have in life can give a different sort of perspective depending on what your experience has been. So by that I mean, if you're a young child and your first loss in life is your pet goldfish, that can be crushing, devastating blow. But then you lose a grandmother and you understand the sadness of losing somebody that you love very much. But then that prepares you by the time that, I lost my father, or I've got fears that I know someday I'm not going to have my mother. Life's prepared me, for some of the heavier things, and I feel like this experience, when I think about what we were dealing with. I was mentioning one emergency sort of situation that we had last summer, and I said I thought that was such a big deal. It was just mass health overbilling that had happened, and it just consumed hours of time, and it cost us money, and I said I would trade. That would be like a picnic. That would be a walk in the park times two if we could just have that. But at the time, that consumed me as being like the biggest, most catastrophic thing that had ever happened. And now look, here we are, having shut down all of our programs. And I think the thing that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this tomorrow at our Unity Forum, but for me as the CEO, and I think probably a lot of the people that are on this call, if there's 95 people, the 95 people that are on here now are in all likelihood have been around for quite a while, and most of you probably know me beyond just what you see in these town halls and forums, and I think most of you will know, well, we've seen the crazy stuff I'll do for NuPath, but you know how much I care about this organization. I mean, I feel, I guess it sounds, I don't want to sound patriotic, but it almost feels like it's a part of me. I mean, I feel so, committed to our mission, and know so many people, and also just care about so many of their staff, and want the very best for everybody. And it's so hard for me to have gone from this. We were, in March, we were just full sales out, just going headstrong into the sunrise, something bold and noble. Things were coming together. Our navigating life app was just right. We were about ready to sign on a few more customers. So many things, and it's easy to feel discouraged, just to feel like you're seeing so much of the hard work we've done together kind of unravel. But I can't look at it that way. What I'm trying to look at, and I think I'm saying this out loud so I hear myself say it, is to watch the magnificent um, cooperation and the amazing collaboration and unity, community spirit that has evolved, and the incredible stuff that you guys are doing each and every day to keep our people safe, to keep yourself safe, to keep your family safe, and to help us get through this all. Because and there's a good chance that in a year's time things could be, maybe we're back to those full sales again in a year's time, but we just have to figure out how we're going to get there. And right now, the big challenge is how are we going to begin to reopen our programs when we can't use traditional transportation, at least not in the numbers, for the numbers of people that we had before. how are we going to manage our environments to keep people safe? How are we going to ensure that we have the appropriate testing and that we're prepared for contact tracing and all the rest that we've been hearing about. So there is still much to be figured out and much to be decided upon. And I want to thank our families, as always, for your patience, cooperation. Maybe many of you have been complaining bitterly and giving our directors a hard time. I hope not, but I sure haven't heard about it. And now as we begin to create opportunities for outdoor visits and get you at least in front of the people that you love so much. Just as I'm hoping to see my mother soon. I think they've got a time scheduled for 3:30 on Sunday to sit across the table from her and not touch. But it's a start, right? We got to start someplace. So I want to thank our families and again our staff. I say it again and again, but those of you who probably are on this call, I hope you know that I mean it with all sincerity when I say that I'm so proud of how this organization, how we have responded. And so this isn't me being, Debbie Downer, like, but I don't feel like I can always, um, it's not going to do any of us any good if I sugarcoat things and if I'm not honest with people. And so, as I said, I would try to do, and I feel that I've remained as true to it as I could have, to share with you honestly and what we're dealing with, and to just keep you, in the loop as much as I'm able to as far as what's going on, with this organization from a financial and business perspective. Um, Nothing could have, nothing prepared me for this. I thought I'd seen it all, but apparently I haven't. I'm afraid to say that because what other horrors maybe are lurking behind the corner that's going to make me say, oh, COVID pandemic, that would be nothing compared to this. So I hope it just doesn't get much worse than that. Um, uh, I don't know if Dan talked about this on Tuesday or not. I meant to go back and look, but we are going to be trimming down the number of virtual occurrences that we have. I think that people are, in the beginning when there was so much thirst for knowledge and information and things were changing hourly. Remember how I was holding up the signs that would say, Friday 5:30 p.m. Because things were moving that quickly. I think that we've all now sort of uh, settled in, for better for worse, into this sort of dull torpor of the pandemic, and as we begin to think about reopening, we'll continue to hold one town hall a week, and that will be for the sharing of practical information and agency news and so forth. And then I want to continue to have our town, our unity forums, because I feel like that is a space that no matter how frightening or anxious the times might be, or how fraught with uncertainty or financial peril or whatever else you want to say, there's something so healing for me to talk to our staff and to hear the wonderful and magnificent tales of the kinds of uh, NuPath quality work that's continuing to happen across the organization, and that's helping people is what got me into this field many moons ago when I was a direct care staff, and it's what continues to sustain my soul even during these times when nobody has answers that we need, and things continue to shift almost hourly. Sometimes it seems from a financial perspective. So just stay tuned for details and alerts as to when, how we're going to do things. I think we're going to move the Unity Forum from the Friday to a Thursday. The feedback that I've received was that people are, now that it's the summer and pandemic or no, people will be, doing beach trips and taking long weekends off and so forth. And we don't want people to feel that they have to, not that people would wait around and start their vacation late because they wanted to not miss a Unity Forum, but we thought that maybe keeping that Friday a little lighter might be a good idea. But I don't have the exact details, so that is to follow. And I'm going to close by giving a little shout out to Bob Hunter, who I happened to see, was it Monday or Tuesday? I forget now. I was over there and he showed up, and he and the crew, or parts of the crew, or it's varied over the times, has continued to manage all of our landscaping accounts. I don't know how he's done that. Uh, Bob Hunter, you're a shining star in my book, and you're just one of those servant leaders that just quietly does what needs to be done and gets it done, and is accountable to this organization and to our customers and to our families and the individuals that depend upon us. So it really it made me happy to see you, and I was reminded of the goodness that day in talking with you. So as the time moves on, we're going to wrap up now, but as the time goes on and as more details become available, I promise to communicate just as quickly as we are able to do so. We want to make sure that we get this right and that we don't put anybody's health or safety or well-being in jeopardy, whether that be the men and women that we serve, their families, the larger community, and most importantly, for our staff, because you guys are the ones that make this whole thing real and put it into motion at the end of the day. And I know that, and I appreciate that and respect that. So, all right, feels a little somber, huh? But we'll try to jazz things up a little bit tomorrow. And I'm not telling you who our guests are. And that might be because I don't know, and that might be because I want to keep you guessing. So, Greg, are there any questions as we try to, or anything else I was supposed to mention?
No, we're good, D. A couple of questions, but all set.
All set. All right, guys. I'm sure there's other things I meant to mention and I didn't. Please tune in tomorrow because we are going to be talking about some important things. But until then, be strong, wash your hands, social distance, wear your mask, and we got this, guys. We will get through this, and we made it this far. So, hey, let's do this, okay? All right, bye.